when you are facing any issues in your business, you have a additional pair of hand, as a shoulder to support you. You don't feel alone. It could be some partner from outside, but if somebody, your partner from home, your spouse, then it becomes really easy. You don't have to fight every single day when you go back home, getting cranky on the business things.
When you're married, you're a team. But what happens if you decide to take your duo professional and start a business together? Is it just more of a good thing or way too much of one? Today we're going to find out. Love Matters with Evelyn Sharma. Hi, I'm Evelyn Sharma, and you're listening to Love Matters, a podcast about relationship topics that matter to you and me. Today we're going to talk to a couple who decided to quit their biotech jobs and to go into business together, making samosas. Yum! Today there are samosa Singh shops in 8 cities in India selling 50,000 samosas a day. So Nidhi Singh and Shikhar Singh, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Evelyn.
Thank you, Evelyn.
Our pleasure to be here.
Well, let's start at the very beginning. How did you guys decide to go into business together?
Well, it definitely was not an easy decision. So, samosas is everywhere around us. So we grew up seeing samosas and Indian street foods and the love for Indian street foods across. But then when we went for higher studies and moved to Bangalore, we saw that even in the south part of India, samosa is one of the most loved product. And yet it was highly unorganized. So basically we saw the unmet need in the market. And we just thought one day, why don't we, create something organized around the Indian street foods? And nothing could be a better product than samosas.
I'm way too pregnant for this conversation, I feel. I am so hungry for samosas, just hearing that. But yeah, continue.
And we also knew that starting a business together is not going to be an easy thing. It's going to have lots of ups and downs because both Shikhar and I have very complementary qualities, assets, and traits. So basically, we knew that it's going to be tough, it's going to be challenging, but at the same time, we could both make a very strong team.
So Shikhar, what were your main worries before you guys started?
I always wanted to do something on my own, but in both of us, we have a very good chemistry because we got married very early. We always say in our childhood.
How old were you guys when you got married?
So we got married when
22, 23, yeah.
Okay, that is early. Yeah.
So basically, whenever I have to do something in my life, I want to take a risk because I have always been on this side. Like I always like risk taking, and I want to do adventure in my life. And she's always more of a comfort zone girl. So it always whenever I have to do something like this, I always have to convince her first. If I have to put some seed in her mind, and then if she's convinced, then I know that she's going to convince everybody else, be it the parents or the consumers, so everyone. So my selling point is only one, and she has many selling points. So
that's awesome. That's a good balance, I guess.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So yes, it was tough, and before we actually ventured into this business, we did a lot of discussions. We spent quite a lot of holidays and days, weekends, weekdays contemplating, will this be a right move? Yeah. How are we going to manage? How are we going to actually compartmentalize personal and professional things, etc.? Though we were not successful initially. I mean, there was nothing personal for the first few years of Samosa Singh. But then we did still try to do that. And it's tough. It's really tough. It's not easy.
So since you both quit your jobs, how did you take care of daily expenses and your funding? Did you save up together, or did one work longer in their daytime jobs than the other to provide, or how did you split the responsibilities of that?
Yeah, so see, we planned well. Like during a job also, we saved enough, So we bought an apartment for us in very early, just after joining the job. Within 1 or 2 years, we were able to do that, and luckily, we were doing well in our jobs as well.
Fantastic.
And once we started Samosa Singh, I was very clear, if we have to start, then I have to plunge in with all my tools. I can't be, one keeping my one step backward in my job and simultaneously work on the
Yeah,
this
so just
business.
like he mentioned, he's a risk taker, right? So he's a risk taker of that degree that the day he convinced me and I said, okay, let's do it now. Enough of thinking, let's do it. And he asked me just once, are you sure about it? You're not going to, rethink about it? I said, no, enough of thinking. We've been thinking about this idea for over 5 years, and
Wow.
I'm with you. Let's do that. And the same, the next, I mean, we slept with this thought, and the next day before I could wake up, he was already in the office, and I get a message from him, hey, here's my resignation, I've resigned. So that's
Wow.
the kind of risk taker he is. He literally just with the idea, with no location, nothing finalized, he was so sure he doesn't want a backup plan, basically no comfort zone. He just quit his job so that there's no looking back.
Wow.
So he quit job almost 10 months prior to starting Samosa Singh.
I mean, you knew him very well and you knew that he does these kind of things, but did it still scare you that, oh my gosh, it's real?
See that.
Yeah, that time she was very much scared. In fact, she revealed me 1 year after the business that she cried almost for 7 nights when I told this that I'm leaving a job.
It's tough, Evelyn, when you
Of
have
course.
comfortable jobs, two of you, spending and earning and nothing to save. You can actually, I could buy anytime anything. I didn't even have to think of it. But when we started the business, literally, it's not an exaggeration, but to buy a pair of jeans, I literally had to plan and chalk out some extra budget to be able to do that, because
Absolutely.
that entire money we were saving, putting it into the business. We were then when Shikha quit the job, we started doing R&D. We took a small kitchen, we hired cooks, so the entire salary and everything
I know.
would go
Yeah.
into that. But I think we don't I mean, obviously we were scared. Everyone would be. He wasn't scared, I was more scared. But I think I've also evolved through the journey. And knowing him, I also know one thing, that definitely he's a risk taker, but at the same time, he's very calculative risk taker. He's not somebody who's going to jump into it with just a thought. He'll actually think through this really well and then do it.
So when was the point that you quit your job? Was it in the same week or?
No, it was almost 1 year
Later, when Samosa Singh was started.
Well, it's great to have that mix, in the two owners. And of course, the balance. Like you said, you guys complement each other really well. And you guys know each other so well, which is always good when you go into business with someone. That trust, that basis of trust has to be there. But tell me 3 pros and 3 cons, guys, of going into business with your romantic partner, with your husband or wife.
3 pros, okay? So I
See,
think
one definitely, like when you are facing any issues in your business, you have a additional pair of hand, as a shoulder to support you. You don't feel alone. It could be some partner from outside, but if somebody, your partner from home, from your own your spouse, then it becomes really easy. You don't have to fight every single day when you go back home, getting cranky on the business things.
so. Yeah, so it's literally like we're both cranky together.
Yeah, so we are.
Yeah, so definitely, I think that's one of the greatest pros, that we both together in it. There's no judgment here. We know we are both putting in efforts, and there's no one who has to actually explain the other one that why we are working, what's happening. So we're both in this together. I think the second pros about it is that you actually don't really have to spend any time synchronizing your thoughts, because you're into it together all of the time. So literally, you're both on the same page. You understand, you know what needs to be done. You're actually doing it together, unlike another partner who could be having a different tangent.
Right.
And I think third one is like, you don't fear the failure. Our mindset is very much clear that if we fall together. If we rise together.
And actually, Evelyn, to be very honest, that's also one of the major con for that, because a lot of
Yeah.
people tell us that, you're in a big risk because if anything happens, you're both doomed together. There's no one to actually support the other one. But I think
Hmm.
life is like that. You don't really plan for something. So for us, we've always felt that it's actually one of our biggest assets.
Yeah.
But then, yeah, there are cons. I mean, one the biggest negative aspect for this is that actually your personal life goes for a toss. Trust me, we thought so much that we'll not let this business get into our personal lives, but we were absolutely unsuccessful. First 3 years, it was just samosa sing. It literally was like raising a child where you don't
Hmm.
really think about yourselves, and all that you focus on is just the business. So it literally after 3 years, it was like two business partners staying together.
Yeah. I think
Right.
this is the only con, but we have eventually learned over the period of time how to overcome these. But still, we are struggling every single day. But at least we don't struggle on things which we used to do 3 years, 4 years back from
Right.
now.
Awesome. Well, I've run businesses myself, and I think one of the biggest pros to have someone who's, so involved with you, to be on your side when it comes to staff discussions. I think that's like a really cool thing to have.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it helps.
No, we feel it that ways because see, in our business, we actually have a mix of all kinds of team, right? We have a gray collar workers who work in our factory. These are people who need to be dealt with a lot of love. Really cannot teach them these ethics. They learn by actions. They are the workers, the staff. Then initially, it's all the male workers who work in the factory. In order to get that discipline, we had to attract the female staff. Now having a couple working as founders actually gives them comfort. Their
Hmm.
male counterparts could
Mhm.
feel comfortable sending their wives with young children to our factory.
Right.
So these things helped. And similarly, in the corporate and the retail staff where the things get little tough, you have to be little strong because you're literally dealing with the customer face. You need to have someone with a more stronger this thing, I would say, a persona, so that teams sometimes also fear the gray collar jobs. That's when Shikhar comes in very handy for me, when we have to manage that front of our team. So
Hmm.
it always worked in our favor.
Yeah, that's very good. Do you guys have any role models? Do you know any other couples who have done this that inspired you to go ahead?
We actually sometimes get I wouldn't say inspired, that's a very strong word, but I would say sometimes we get motivated by actually looking at our own journey. So I don't know if you know, but
Hmm.
when COVID happened, just before COVID, we were really flourishing well in the business. And when COVID happened, my 95% of my business became zero
Oh my
overnight,
goodness.
because I
Yeah.
was working with the airlines and the big
Oh,
multiplexes.
wow.
So the
Yeah.
food and travel industry were our major customers, and our entire business was zero. And that actually
Jeez.
was one of the most, I think I would say, it was like we were literally standing on the frontiers of expansion when this thing happened. And that point in time, we didn't even have a second to actually think about us or anything. We both of us, we just together with our team, we took them into confidence, we immediately pivoted, and from zero we again grew the company to where we are now. Definitely very very challenging times, but
Wow.
now when anything tough happens, we go back, think about those times, and we ourselves feel motivated, where Shikhar keeps telling me if we were able to sail through then, so I think we'll follow this as well. So
Mm. Yeah, wow. I was gonna ask you, what is it that motivates you guys to keep going and not just call it quits?
See, our only motivation is like we wanted to do something on our own. But this one thought that the purpose which we started this and where we want to take this business ahead and what is our ultimate goal, until that is achieved, then obviously you don't have any reason to quit and go back to your comfort zone. And 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 with us, like you were telling, like as a partner we always feel lucky enough, if even if we are feeling low on certain days, we are assured like we have we are backing each other, and if somebody goes down And it happens in most of our, especially in our case, if one person is low, the other person gather the energy, I don't know how. And it start behaving in a very different way, and ultimately both of them come on the same page with high energy.
I think it's more intertwined. Like if I'm feeling down in one of the tough days and I go and tell him, I'm feeling demotivated, something wild changes in such a way that he feels so inspired to maybe motivate me back to get back on the things or something like this. So it's always complementary in our cases.
That's awesome. That is really awesome. If you have that person, from your morning breakfast table to the evening dinner, to motivate you when you have a day that is just, a downer. That's really great. So in every episode, our Love Matters team puts together some cold, hard facts about the topic. So let's hear some real life numbers from our team.
La, la, la. Love matters.
Only 13% of Indian startups have at least one female co-founder. And women-led startups receive just 1% of total venture capital funding in India, according to a report by Startup Genome from 2021. And according to Catalyst's India's Women in Business report, traditional gender roles and stereotypes are still prevalent in India, which means that women face significant barriers to leadership and entrepreneurship.
That's interesting, especially because you guys mentioned earlier that having a female co-founder in the mix makes a lot of female workers or even their partners, their husbands, their families very comfortable with coming to work. So do you think there should be more couple entrepreneurs or just mixed entrepreneurs to make it a better work atmosphere?
Yeah, definitely. And I think many companies are working toward this. In fact, recently I've seen many founders who have recently hired and as a co-founders, female employees. So I think female employees very much required, and it could be a couple or co-founder.
Right.
I agree. And in fact, not just from the perspective of, attracting more female workers, but I think overall in the work environment also, there's a very, both, men and women, they have their own different kind of charisma that they bring in, different kind of an aura that they bring in the company. So I think having a good mix or a good blend helps in either ways. The company becomes more workable, the culture becomes it's more, I would say, different, and it's more amenable to changes and pivoting, and it's more fun together.
Awesome. So give me some tips, guys. Say me and my husband are thinking about going into business together. What are your top 3 tips of how to start a business together?
Communication is the core, is really, really the most important and underrated, I think, sentiment or an emotion. Most of the couples need to understand that creating a business plan versus running a business are 2 very, very different things. So business running is a reality, and in business, while you're in the business, you're actually dependent on so many third parties and factors that sometimes, actually most of the times, things don't go as per the plan because there's so many intricacies and other sudden developments that gets involved which are out of your control. So therefore it's very important to understand that it's going to be a challenging journey, but at the same time, if you do it together, you actually will enjoy the process more.
Sometimes you need to step back from the from the core and understand on the bigger picture of the company and discuss, like, are we flowing in a right direction? Are we doing the right strategies? Whenever we get a time, and we especially go to a gardens, like we have a Kaban Park in Bangalore where we take out time and go there, or a cafe, or any other place where, in the nature, we get to connect with each other and decide on our
and
future
those
goals.
days, there are certain rules, right? You really need to talk your heart out, close it, and then with the closure, you proceed ahead. And these, it may sound trivial, but trust me, these things are imperative because otherwise, you never know that these small hiccups could eventually become ego clashes as well.
Absolutely. I guess good communication is something every couple can work on, whether you're in business or not. I think these are great tips to have specific days to talk it out. So how do you keep the love alive in your relationship when so much of it is about business now?
Well, love was always there. It's always there. In fact,
okay, the
sometimes
romance.
we have a very dedicated spaces at home where when we enter, we actually do not bring office there.
Mhm.
There are certain time zones that we follow. We
Mhm.
definitely keep taking, apart from work vacations, we keep taking some personal time off as well, some personal vacations and other things.
We keep celebrating. So whenever
Yeah.
there is a even small thing, we celebrate.
Mhm.
And when we especially take out time, especially in the night, to go out some good nice place where we have a good music and good food, and we talk personal things with each other. So that keeps our romantic relation alive.
So small things, when we get home after office, we actually most every day we actually welcome each other at home with a very warm hug, and that's probably like it's like a signal to our brain that now we are home.
Yeah.
So small surprise elements here and there are enough to actually keep it going.
So I guess there are certain points of make or break. Tell me some of the issues that you guys had and how you made sure that you give each other the space to be yourself.
See, in our case, these issues, we obviously faced it. Why? Because, like initially, also we mentioned, we have very different personalities, right? So, if any concern comes in, if any problem comes in, the approach to that problem is very different for both of us. I'll give you a very simple example. Okay, so let's say we were actually serving a very big customer, and it was a very important order. And just at the final delivery point, when the final frying of the samosas was happening, something wrong happened. Basically, the product didn't come out well. We immediately get the call. We immediately go to the factory. We figure out what's wrong. Now my brain starts processing, oh my God, how do I manage the customer? Right? Because eventually the customer needs the delivery next 1 hour. For Shikhar, automatic his wiring will go, oh my God, what went wrong? What was wrong in this entire process? That, in the final step, the product didn't come out well. What do I do to make sure that the next batch doesn't follow the same suit? So in reality, both of us are actually thinking the right things, right? So eventually we realize that it's actually none of the other's fault. It's like we are standing in such a direction that to me it looks like a 6 and to him it looks like a 9, right? And none of us is wrong. So we decided that let's do one thing. You focus on that aspect, let me do my work. And we both then wonderfully kind of divided it and then conquered it, and we were eventually able to figure that out. So over the years, one thing we have learned, we have actually compartmentalized our work. So when it's about the front end, the customer facing and all of that, I take care. When it's about the back end, the core, the business process, the finances, the strategy, that's where he does it.
Fantastic. I guess that's a really good idea to make sure that the roles and responsibilities are very well defined. So yeah, considering how many startups succeed, it's a very, very small percentage of how many startups are started and fail. What tips do you have for couplepreneurs to, find that motivation, but also really evaluate their idea, whether it's worth pursuing or not?
See, well, when you start anything, your business, so your idea has to be evaluated before you plunge into it. Basically, they evaluate your idea, they do the market research analysis, tell you what could be the success if it works, and if it works or not. So I think it's very important aspect for any
Right.
startup business.
No, that's true. And I think second big suggestion that I would want to give out, at least from our learning, is it's okay to fight. It's absolutely okay to fight. Rather than keeping it, see, it's not like a wine, right? That you keep aging it, and it turns wonderful better. In fact, if you keep any grudge in you and you keep doing it, it turns into worse thing. We have seen it. So what we do is we've actually decided that if there's something that we feel angry about or do it, just fight about it. So when COVID happened, right, when the business went zero, it was a very tough time. We literally felt like fighting because sometimes, you tend to blame the other person's decision. Why did we open this? I told you we should be opening this otherwise. And see, now COVID happened. Now, actually, COVID was one-off case, right? It's not something that anyone would have planned or kept in mind. But
Yeah.
it's okay to fight and vent it out, but then eventually, at least let that emotion pass, because only once it's off, then you'll be able to focus and feel better and getting. I think it's really important. People underestimate the value of venting out the emotions, but it's super critical. And we both fight. I mean, we definitely fight. It's just two of us at home, and sometimes it's literally like a Mahabharata that goes on, but it's okay. Eventually, after that, then things start getting much better. So,
Yeah, I guess that's also something that couples can learn, is how to fight. Well, that brings me to another interesting question, which is, how important do you think is having mentors in your journey?
Really
yeah,
important
it's
to have.
important. So we actually never had any one mentor as such, but then throughout our journey, we were blessed to come across really nice people who got associated with us in the business, even from our families, people telling us how they evolved. And when you are really struggling in some aspect, you tend to become more absorbent in capturing the things that people want to tell
Yeah.
you or talk to you about.
Yeah, I think it's super important. I mean, I'm in my life at the moment, I'm just embracing motherhood. So having other moms around is just absolutely priceless. It's such a treasure to laugh and cry together. So the same with when you're in your time of entrepreneurship, you really want to have other people to talk about. I of course had that too when I was in that phase of my life. Well, thanks, Nidhi and Shikhar. Thank you so much for being here today and sharing your incredible experience and story with us. You've created an amazing company, and it's really inspiring to hear how you got there. And thank you. I'm sure our audience is very, very inspired right now.
Oh, thank you, Evelyn. It was
Thanks,
an
thanks,
absolute
Evelyn.
pleasure interacting with you, and we really enjoyed this session. It was very impromptu. Loved the questions, and
Awesome.
we feel good too.
Well, guys, you've been listening to Love Matters, a podcast about relationship topics that matter to you and me, from Indian Express and DW, Germany's international broadcaster. If you think there's something that we should be talking about, then please make sure to write us at lovematters@dw.com. And don't forget to share this podcast with all your friends. I'm Evelyn Sharma, and I think love matters.
Love matters. Love